It started as one of those late invitations that feel like a whispered secret passing through the city. A quiet message, a shared pin, a hint of music drifting over hedges on the Bosphorus. Friends from the industry had come together to host a casual after-hours garden party, the kind where you don't need a dress code because laughter becomes the attire. They had chosen soft, bonfire-style lighting that washed the space in warm gold, strings of bulbs suspended over the lawn like patient constellations. A small stage was tucked beneath a sycamore, a Bluetooth speaker hummed playful tracks, and someone had set up a grill gleaming like a promise. It was late, but the night felt fresh, as though the city itself had agreed to pause. It was, at its core, supposed to be easy. No red carpet, no podium, just familiar faces unwinding after long filming schedules, catching up on everything work steals away, inside jokes, stolen recipes, anecdotes that never fit in interviews. The guest list read like a collage of stylists, screenwriters, assistants who always pull off miracles, and a handful of actors whose weekend schedules had miraculously aligned. There was a comfort to the scene. The sugary smell of marinades, the smoky ribbon of the grill rising into the trees, the occasional clink of ice against glass. You could feel the relief in how people stood. Relaxed shoulders, genuine smiles, the slow undoing of a busy week. Then they arrived, the two names no one expected to see in the same frame without a script guiding them. Alina stepped through the garden gate with that quiet poise of hers, wearing an effortless, off-duty look that made her seem both luminous and grounded. Almost at the same breath of time, Navruz entered from the side path, hands tucked casually in his jacket pockets, gaze scanning the crowd for a face he recognized. It wasn't rehearsed, but it might as well have been choreography. They appeared nearly simultaneously, the way radio frequencies align in perfect, sudden harmony. A pause rippled through the small gathering, no gasps, nothing dramatic, just a hush of attention turning in their direction as if drawn by the same, invisible tide. The first seconds were pure surprise, the next ones belonged to recognition. Alina's smile widened when she saw him. Alp's eyebrows lifted in that restrained, playful way, like we planned this? He seemed to say without words. They moved closer, each greeted by a hand on a shoulder here, a hug there, but somehow their paths curved neatly toward each other. When they finally stood side by side beneath the warm lights, it felt as though the air had steadied around them. "Did you plan this?" someone teased, passing by with a plate of skewers. "Great minds think alike," Alp replied, not missing a beat. Alina laughed, soft enough that only the nearest guests heard, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Whatever awkwardness could have followed burned off quickly, replaced by an easy rapport that set the tone for the rest of the evening. If anyone had been uncertain about the mood, that uncertainty faded as gently as a song transitioning to the next track. The hosts, pleased with the coincidence and the quiet buzz it created, nudged the music a notch higher and invited everyone to the lawn. Conversations blossomed in small circles. The garden's seating was simple. Blankets over low benches, a few wicker chairs, and oversized cushions that made people sink with a sigh. Alina and Alp drifted between groups, and wherever they landed, things just got warmer. They laughed often, the kind of laughter that slips out unguarded and lights the face. They were spotted by the grill, caught in negotiator mode over which marinade would win the night. They were seen by the string lights, leaning close to hear each other over the song's chorus. They were pulled into a few group photos, bodies arranged by habit, but hands and smiles relaxed, flickers of light capturing more than a pose. It wasn't a performance, and yet there was a rhythm to it, the unspoken language of two people who understand timing. He reached for the tongs and offered them to her. She pointed to the chicken, insisted it needed 2 more minutes. He argued for 3 like a chef who doesn't own a kitchen thermometer. She laughed, lifted the tongs, and staged a diplomatic flip. The friends around them chimed in with playful critiques, while someone announced they were documenting the marinade debate for posterity. "Don't you dare tag me in a grill disaster," Alina said, raising an eyebrow at a stylist who had already opened the camera app. "Only if the chicken survives," Alp countered, which earned him another smile. He was without his usual guardedness, the one that kicks in around cameras and prying questions. She was unhurried, responding in crisp, bright moments that matched the night's color. The bonfire-style lights leaned everything toward intimacy without making a spectacle of it. Music swelled and softened. Old friends leaned in to trade stories. A screenwriter told the tale of a last-minute rewrite that became a legendary fix. A makeup artist admitted to sneaking baklava into set between takes. The soft buzz of the city hovered at the edges, distant enough to feel like a blanket. The party wasn't crowded, maybe 30 people at most, but the energy was rich, textured, and immediate. Alina and Alp were not glued together, but there was a gentle orbit between them that kept tightening and loosening in a way only the room could register. He listened when she spoke, that steady way he has of holding a gaze, turning his attention into an invitation. She answered with honesty, humor, and those precise, attentive nods she's known for. They shared headphones at one point, each with a single earbud, laughing at the same sample beat as if they'd rehearsed it in a trailer long ago. It never felt forced. It felt like a conversation between two people who had had enough of carefully crafted images and had stumbled, for a night, into something truthful. Group photos happened the way group photos always do. Someone calls, everyone resists, then everyone obeys because nostalgia always wins. Alina and Alp found themselves in the middle row more than once, shoulders almost touching, a low joke slipping between them. The camera caught candid fragments, her head tipped back mid-laugh, his hand still holding a spatula from the grill, their expressions sharp and unguarded against the soft light haze. The kind of images that never quite look real because they weren't planned to be. There were quiet moments, too. A lull by the hydrangeas where the world shrank to the size of a small conversation. A stroll with paper plates in hand, comparing sauces like critics evaluating art. A small exchange by the table of condiments where he noticed she had a smudge of pepper and pointed to his cheek to show her where. She wiped it away and shook her head at herself, and he shrugged like he'd been waiting for a reason to laugh about something that small. If anyone had been waiting to feel uncomfortable about them in the same frame, that feeling never arrived. Instead, the mood turned celebratory in a quiet, oddly personal way. It wasn't fireworks, it was tablecloth candlelight. Not confetti, just the hum of friends catching a rare easy night. And yet the thrill built anyway because you could see it, the way people looked at them and then at one another. Some guests exchanged glances that neatly said, "Are you seeing this?" without brave enough words to match. Others pretended not to notice but took mental snapshots like they were saving the night up for later. In a corner near the grill, where the smoke curled like handwriting in the air, they ended up cooking side by side. It was an accidental duet. He held the foil, she arranged vegetables, they negotiated heat like co-captains. When the first batch turned out perfect, cheers rose and someone declared them the reigning barbecue team. Alina shook her head in mock disbelief at the title. Alp bowed slightly, dramatic enough to win a laugh but subtle enough to dodge a spotlight. The joy was infectious, not because it belonged on a tabloid cover, but because it belonged to that moment. The hosts, grinning at how effortlessly the energy had lifted, dimmed the lights a shade, and the music slipped into an easy playlist of late-night favorites. A few guests danced barefoot on the lawn. Shoes came off, jackets slung over chairs. Somewhere a new song began that made everyone sway. Alina and Alp didn't dance, exactly. They swayed, like everyone else, like leaves caught in a mutual breeze. She mimed the line of a melody with her fingers, he caught the beat on his hip with two absent taps. There were no grand gestures, just the simple magic of being at ease. None of this would have mattered much if not for the cameras' phones, to be precise, lurking in the easy way phones do among friends. A handful of snapshots slipped into the night like dandelion seeds. A short video captured them by the grill, heads leaning in to share a quick quip. Another frame caught the two laughing as someone failed spectacularly to flip a burger. And that group shot, oh, that group shot where they stood shoulder to shoulder under lights that turned everything gold, would soon become a threat of its own. By the time the party tipped toward late, chatter had already begun to flicker beyond the garden walls. One upload, 2 reposts, and the hum traveled with the speed of a rumor that wanted to be true. Social media woke up even though it was nowhere near morning. Fans who had just sworn they were logging off for the night found their thumbs ready again. Comments multiplied. DMs began to ping. People zoomed into pixels and argued over them like detectives chasing clues. Is this really them? Someone asked beneath the first set of photos. They look so comfortable, another wrote, which was somehow both an observation and a prayer. Unlocked, the feed started to breathe faster. Threads formed. Side-by-side comparisons popped up from an old press day where they'd once laughed at the same offhand comment. The barbecue banter was transcribed like dialogue from a favorite scene. There were debates, too, because the internet loves a battlefield almost as much as it loves a love story. Some insisted it was nothing more than good friendship, a happy coincidence, coworkers finding a rare free night. Others read every glance like a letter, every smile as good evidence. Somewhere between the disagreements and the adoration sat the quiet truth. What everyone was responding to wasn't a confession. It was an ease. A shared temperature. The kind of chemistry that doesn't need to be announced because it's more felt than seen. You could argue the meaning, but you couldn't argue how their presence softened the room. The hosts didn't intend to create a headline, but they had inadvertently orchestrated the kind of ambience that turns gentle moments into cultural weather. The bonfire-style lights made everything look like a memory even as it happened. The garden, with its tidy borders and looser rules, served as a stage that only existed for one night. And into this atmosphere walked 2 people who have spent years walking carefully, suddenly unburdened by expectation for just long enough that everyone else could see something that felt sincere. All night, they said nothing that could be misquoted as a confirmation. There were no whispers of declarations, no accidental slips that sound editors love. When a friend jokingly asked if the marinade debate counted as a date, Alp smiled into his cup and shook his head like he wasn't going to dignify that with an answer. Alina answered with an eye roll that was half a joke and half a gentle boundary. They maintained the quiet dignity that has defined them publicly for years. And still, the room thrummed with wonder. By dawn, the online narrative had evolved into a collage of possibilities. Some fans clipped the captured laughter like proof of something beginning. Others wrote long, protective paragraphs about letting people be happy without turning them into clickbait. And then there were the dreamers, the ones who stitched the photos into edits with slowed, wistful music, convinced they had seen the first chapter of a story that would write itself. Through it all, both remained silent. No statements. No posts. No clarifications wrapped as advice to the overinvested. Their teams, when asked for a comment, offered the polite version of a closed door, no remarks at this time, thank you. Which, of course, only sharpened the intrigue because silence has an odd way of sounding like a heartbeat when everyone leans in. Back at the garden, as the night wound down, the last few guests lingered beneath dimming lights. The grill had gone cool. The music softened to near silence, like the party had learned how to whisper. Alina slipped into a cardigan against the breeze. Alp put away a stack of plates because that's who he is at gatherings, useful, present. Their conversation was low, unhurried. If they said anything of consequence, only the hydrangeas know. They exchanged goodnights that were neither staged nor prolonged. It was a normal ending, which in itself felt remarkable. What stayed with people wasn't a stunt or a headline-ready stunt double for a kiss. It was the plainness of joy. It was how they navigated the room like 2 points on the same map. It was how they showed up, almost at the same moment, as if an invisible cord had tugged them from opposite sides of the evening and dropped them under the same string of lights. In the days that followed, the images kept circling, pulling in those who had missed the first wave. Captions shifted from curiosity to confidence, from questions to speculative exclamation marks. Certain corners of the fandom declared themselves on watch. Others chose patience, remembering that both Alina and Alp have careful boundaries around their private selves. Respect and excitement, normally at odds online, agreed to share the same space for once. Maybe nothing was said because nothing needs to be said. Maybe what matters most is that, for one night, two intensely watched lives relaxed into something easy enough to feel real, easy enough to remind everyone that chemistry isn't a marketing strategy, and comfort isn't accidental. The glow of those bonfire lights made a frame, yes, but what happened inside felt true on its own. So the story stands as it began. An after-hours garden party hosted by close friends in the industry, lit like a memory, buoyed by laughter and a grill that refused to quit. Alina Boz and Alp Navruz arrived almost at the same time and quickly drew every eye without trying. They talked, they laughed, they wove in and out of groups like threads making a new pattern, they posed for group pictures that turned gold under the lights, and they ended up side by side at the barbecue, turning dinner into an easy duet. Their ease sparked speculation. The photos found the internet like birds finding a current. Fans argued and adored, argued again, and adored even louder. And for now, both stars are keeping quiet about what any of it means, if it means anything at all. But one thing is undeniable. They had a good night. They enjoyed the evening without apology. They stood next to each other in a way that looked like relief. And if you ask the people who were there, they'll tell you the same thing the pictures already say, whatever name you want to give it, Alina Boz and Alp Navruz share a bond that audiences love to witness. Maybe it's friendship that glows. Maybe it's something that prefers the dark for now, blooming slowly in low light. Either way, it is something worth seeing, and that is why it's still being talked about long after the grill cooled and the music faded into the kind of silence that knows how to keep a secret.